Hello, hello. How is everybody doing? I see people are coming in on the live stream. As you come in, just speak to me. Let me know that you're here. How is everybody doing? Like, tag, share. We have an amazing segment planned for you tonight. Hey, Letitia, how are you doing? Welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Like, tag, share. We're going to give it a few seconds to give some people time to come in. Charlene, I see you. How you doing? Thank you for joining us. Bessie, I see you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for tagging. We are about to have an amazing conversation tonight. I just want to give everybody a moment to hop in. Hey, 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 everybody. Hey, how y'all doing? Welcome, welcome. A few more moments here. Give these numbers a little bit of time to climb, and we'll go ahead and get started. How's everybody doing? Bishop Rogers, how you doing, sir? Thank you for joining us. So we're going to go ahead and get started. First of all, I want to welcome you guys to the Hub. The Hub is where we discuss health, finances, community, education, and politics. We invite you to meet us here on the first Friday of every month, as we have new guests and topics that will not only inspire, but educate as well. The Hub is where ministry and community meets. So our purpose is to bridge the gap, bring the ministry, House of God Worship Center, and the community together and talk about those topics that you may not always hear in a ministry setting. I am your host tonight. My name is Justin Taylor, and we have an amazing segment planned for you. We are talking about the power of maximizing your finances. The power of maximizing your finances. We want you to learn how to get the most out of what you currently have and position yourself to be able to do more with that in the future. Our guest tonight is none other than Mr. David Kwan, who is online with us. David is my good friend, my brother, and since our meeting, David has taught me so much about this very subject. How to make what I earn grow, how to diversify it, how to protect it, and how to prepare for the future. Now that's important. As we embark on this discussion tonight, I want you to consider those factors regarding the money that you work so hard to earn. I want you to ask yourself, is it growing? Is it branching out and creating other streams and opportunities for me? Is it protected from the traps of the economy? And am I prepared for the future? Those are the 4 questions that I want you to ask yourself. Is my money growing? Is my money branching out and creating more opportunities for me? Is it protected from this savage economy that we live in? And am I protected in the future? If you cannot answer yes to each of those questions, then I encourage you to pay close attention to what we're about to talk about. And I also encourage you to share it with someone that you know may need this information, and you know, be a blessing to them. So at this time, I would like to bring David on. David, welcome to the show. Thank you for being with us.
Hey, Justin, glad to be on. Thanks for having me, man. I was excited about this.
Absolutely. So David, tell us a little bit. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us what is it exactly that you do?
Man, what is it that I don't do, right? It's
That could be a better question.
yeah, well, I got invited here to talk about finance, talk about money, really. I like to I don't like to put a label on myself because I think that we do a lot more than just financial advising. I mean, we help people strategically position their money to better themselves, right? To build something for themselves, to get out of the problems that we all go through and suffer through. And really, I'm talking to a Christian church, like we're here to break those curses, right? Those things that have lived in our generations. And the one way to do it is through knowledge of some of these things that we're going to talk about today. So it makes me passionate about it. I've been doing it for 13, 14 years now, and I still get fired up to talk about finances. So that's what I do.
So how, you say you've been doing it for 13 years. How
Yeah.
did you get into the finance industry?
That's a good question. So just real quick story, right? So, obviously my parents weren't from this country. They were from Vietnam, and they came over here during the Vietnam War. My dad was South Vietnamese Navy, right? And 1975, the United States was very involved in Vietnam. They pulled out of the country at that time frame and offered a lot of the people to come with them. So my dad took that opportunity to come over here, left my mom there because they were supposed to come over afterwards, right? Well, as soon as the United States pulled out, the communists took over and violated the treaty, and they came down and they started killing a lot of people. There was mass genocides. My mom was one of the ones that escaped the country as a refugee. She actually swam half a mile off the shore to get to a refugee boat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? Because I mean, there's people getting killed everywhere.
Yeah.
It took her 2 years to get from the voyage from there to over here.
Oh, wow.
And so they came here, they reunited over here, really for the American dream. Of course, it wasn't called that back then, right? We didn't really know about what the American dream was, but they came here for the American dream, which is freedom. They lived the American way, I call it, right? Because they were paycheck to paycheck, job to job. They struggled for two major corporate companies for about 30 years of their lives. And so I just watched them struggle, like I watched them struggle, watched us struggle. And when I went to college to figure out what I wanted to do, I really didn't know. I started off studying engineering because that's what a lot of us do, right? And then I went to like other stuff and programming, and then finally I didn't like any of those things. I wasn't that, I mean, I'm pretty decent at math, but I wasn't that good at math. But I knew that that money was something that everybody would need, whether it was with the company or with people. And then going through college studying finance and economics, I saw that there's so much information, so much knowledge that the average person doesn't have. And then someone in school talked to me about being a financial, expert, a financial advisor, a financial specialist. And I looked into that. And so I graduated in 2009 from Old Dominion. And that time the market crashed. The economy was pretty bad, right? But that presented an opportunity for me to go into business for myself in the financial industry, teaching people where awareness was at the peak, because a lot of people think, well, why would you go to something when the market's down and people don't want to save money? But it was actually the opposite, where people were more financially aware than ever because of what happened. And it's held true since that time, since 13, 14 years ago. And so that's how I got into it and ended up changing our lives doing so.
Okay, so your degree from Old Dominion is in finance.
Yeah, I actually double majored with economics and finance.
Economics and finance. Okay,
yeah.
Awesome.
Sounds good, but I mean, really, it was just education. So, yeah.
Okay, I totally get it.
Yeah.
So what? And I guess you kind of already answered this. So your goals for the finance industry was more so to provide that education that you have to other people.
Yeah. So the goal here, well, I guess you could say, what I've seen is that we have a lot of these cliches, right? Like money isn't everything,
Right.
and what else to say? Money doesn't buy happiness, right? And so, I bet though many of our biggest challenges can be solved with a blank check. Is that right?
Absolutely.
So although
Absolutely.
money's not everything, a lot of things that we have, require that, right? And of course, and then someone told me one time, I'd rather be wealthy and unhappy than broke and unhappy. You know, which one would you rather be, right?
Yeah.
And so that let me realize these cliches that we have, it's really we shouldn't use it as excuses or reasons why we shouldn't be better stewards of our money, right? Why we shouldn't be ignorant to some of these things out here, why we shouldn't be doing better for ourselves, you know?
Absolutely.
And so that became a lot, you know, really big passion of mine. But my goals are really just to help as many people as we can get the information out there. And obviously it's provided a great lifestyle for our family too. It's very lucrative. And, you know, they say that you know, your income is based on directly on the value that you provide to people. You know,
Absolutely. I've heard
so
that. Yeah.
we think we provide a lot of value to people in these kind of things. So it's been great.
Okay. That's great to hear. And so, you know, for our viewers, part of this discussion, you know, I'm hoping we can have some demonstration. So David, with that, you said, you know, the key to happiness is providing a blank check. So if you provide me with a blank check, I can demonstrate that theory to our listeners.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you just give me the blank check and we'll test that theory out.
Yeah, we can solve the problems, right?
Yeah, so you know, this is something that we do every time we get together, every time we talk, every time we connect. You and I talk about money.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's what we're gonna do tonight. You ready to talk about some money?
Nothing new.
Let's talk about some money. So let me ask you this. Why do we need to make our money work for us, regardless of how much money we have?
Man, you know, it's almost like we're born, we're put through education and school in our youth, and as soon as we hit adult age, right, it's like a race to retirement, right? We got to make money, build our careers, and hopefully have enough money in 30 or 40 years to retire one day, you know? Right. And of course, there's a lot more to life than that, right? But that kind of, that doesn't relieve those pressures, right? Every day we wake up, and we as a whole, we wake up to do things we don't want to do, right? At times we don't want to wake up at and drive through traffic that we don't want to be in, right? And so everything we do, it really indirectly relates to finances, you know, whether we realize it or not. We got to pay those bills. We got to put the roof over the head, right? We got to provide for our babies and our kids and all this kind of stuff. And so there's a lot of pressure there. And the thing is that you got to really position yourself to employ money to work for you. You know, money has to work for you, not you just work for money. Right. You know, you alone, us alone is not enough to do all that. So, Go ahead.
So, you know, with that being said, you know, what are some of those challenges that every American faces, regardless of income status? All right. We're going to talk about inflation. Let's talk about retirement. Let's talk about Social Security. Let's talk about taxes, right? So how does all of that play a part into whether or not we are able to position ourselves currently to maximize our money and allow our money to generate more money for us for our future?
Yeah, well, definitely. I think the first thing you said was inflation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, I mean, you can't turn on the news without hearing about that now. And for those who don't know what inflation is, that's just the prices, the cost of living, how much stuff costs out there, right? What it costs to go to buy things. Those prices over time go up, right? And we see it every day in the grocery store. Everyone's seeing it at this point. And so when inflation right now, they're saying is around 6 to 8%. Or a year, like something that costs $1 would be 8 cents next year. $1.08. That doesn't sound like a lot of money, but when you go to $100, it becomes $108. If your money is not keeping up with the rate of inflation, then you're losing money. Think about if you buried $100 in the ground, say 30 years ago, right? 30 years ago, our parents buried $100 in the ground, save it for us. And now we're in our 30s or 40s, we go in the ground, we bury, you know, we dig it up, we take it out. How much stuff would that buy, right? Versus 30 years ago. Now think about 30 years from now, what $100 will buy. Right. So that's a big challenge everyone's facing right now is keeping up with that. What's the second thing you said? Retirement. Yeah, retirement's interesting too. I think people severely underestimate how much they actually need. Because we're not accounting for inflation. That I mean, especially that. I mean, I think most people don't even take that into account, because most people say, well, maybe $1 million would be nice for retirement, right? I talk to someone that's 50 years old and says that, and I talk to someone that's 20 years old and says that. You know, and that's a big difference. Let me do an exercise with you real quick, Justin. I don't think we've done this yet, right? But so let me just ask you a question, right? What age, like ideally, let's say that you didn't do business and you did the regular 9 to 5, you worked. What age would you want to retire at? Or most people do.
Yeah, I think I would probably want to
I know
62,
yesterday, but I'm
62, 65.
Okay, 265. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So 65 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is the morbid question, but I got to ask you this. This is a real question, right? But what age would you feel like you've had a pretty full life if you had to go home? Like what age would you want to live to?
Oh man. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that is a more request. Okay, so
Yeah.
woo, yeah, I don't, so this is just an exercise, Lord.
Yeah.
Let me
Yeah.
say
This
that.
ain't you. This is just, I mean,
Don't give me no expiration date.
no.
But I would say 95.
95. Okay. Most people say 85, but 95 is good. That means you're doing well. Okay. So 95. All right. So 65 and 95. How many years is that?
30 years.
30 years.
Yeah.
Now let's go fast forward 20 years. How much money per year do you think you would need to live on when you're 65 years old?
Per year.
Yeah, per year.
Okay, so if my mortgage is paid off, because
Mhm.
your mortgage should be paid off by the time you retire.
Hopefully.
All of my vehicles should be paid off. Not that they're going to last a day past the last payment, because that's how they build them now. But I would think, I would guess at least maybe $75,000 to $80,000 a year.
$100,000. Okay. So if you think 70, let's do it monthly, divided by 12, right? That's about $6,000 a month,
So you have a
$7,000.
calculator right there?
I do right here. Yeah.
Okay.
Make it
All
easy.
right.
Yeah. I tell
Go
you, I'm
ahead.
not that good at math. All right. So
Okay.
so let's say $7,000 a month, right? I think
Mhm.
most people will be okay with that. Now we haven't factored in inflation yet, but let's just do this exercise. So $80,000 a year, right? We times that by how many years? 30 years?
Mhm.
That's 2.4 million.
That's
Right?
how much I need in
2.4 million.
retirement.
Was that a little bit more than you thought, right?
Yeah, that's a lot
Yeah.
more than I thought. But we haven't even factored in inflation.
That's right. Because 70 grand, 80 grand in 30 years, 20 years will probably be like 100, 110.
No, not even that much.
Right.
I was gonna give you a stat here that $1 million
Uh-huh.
in 30 years is only $120,000 liquid
Oh, wow. There you go.
with
So,
today's current inflation. Oof.
Plus, I mean, not to factor in taxes too. Like if money's sitting in a taxable account, like a 401k,
Mhm.
you're gonna need a lot more than that, right?
Right. So
Mhm.
the point is, our money needs to always generate more money. If we're working to pay bills and pay bills only, and trusting the traditional 401k model, which we're going to talk about, we're setting ourselves up for failure when it comes to retirement, because it's next to impossible with battling inflation and all of those other economic challenges. It will be next to impossible for us to reach those golden years and have enough money in a retirement account to take care of ourselves and live comfortably. So it is imperative that we begin to think about those things while we have time, right? While we're young, while we're able to work, while our health is good, because the more time we wait, the longer we wait to start making these financial changes, the more difficult it's going to be for us to break away from, that traditional mold of living. So I went on, what is it? CNBC Money Matters website today, and It said right now in America, we are in a $7 trillion retirement crisis, and it's getting worse by the day. CNBC is projecting that more than a third of working Americans today will live their retirement years in poverty. Things like the pandemic, wars, the interest rate hike. Everybody knows about the interest rate hike that took place this year. And inflation are affecting retirement 30 years from now. And like, we don't even realize it, right? Even with all of that, if we retire by way of traditional retirement or 401k, you're on a fixed income, right? So if you put, so much money in your 401k after working for a place for 30 years, and let's hope they match whatever you put in, and say you retire and you have $1 million in this account, hypothetically, right? That puts you on a fixed income for the next 30 years. All you got is $1 million. So you got to divide that by 30, and that's how much money you got per year. You got to divide that number by 12. So, and again, the retirement that you're paying into today is not accounting for inflation 30 years from now. So it's like we're almost set up to fail from the beginning by being taught to trust in traditional retirement plans. Now, I would venture to say that doing this 50 years ago, our grandparents, right? Our grandmothers and great-grandmothers, and, it was a safe gamble for them because inflation was nowhere near where it is now. So they could afford to trust in a retirement plan and Social Security. Speaking on that, what do you think about Social Security?
Well, what is it, right? What really is Social Security? Well, on your paycheck stubs, it's called FICA, right? Federal Insurance Contribution Act is what it is. But someone told me one time it stands for funds I cannot access, right? So basically, we're all, the working age people are paying taxes into Social Security so that the people that are retired, technically 62 and above, that are drawn from it, will get a check. And so what's supposed to happen is that when we get to that age of 62, 65, 66 years old, the youth at that time will be paying for our Social Security. So that's really what it is. We pay for them now, and then our youth pay for us later on. So, yeah, I mean, so I don't know if you know anybody on Social Security, but my parents, their Social Security checks are $1,200 and $800 a month. So about $2,000 a month before taxes is what they get for that. So I always say, hey, if Social Security is there for us, then great. It's a nice little bonus, but don't think that that's going to be like everything that you need, because it won't be, if it's even around.
Well, they're even projecting that by 2035, the Social Security fund is going to be depleted.
Right.
So even for us, young, able-bodied, working Americans, all of that money that we're paying into Social Security, we're not going to reap anything. Well, hypothetically, we won't be able to pull from those investments by the time we're 65. So,
so just a note on that, and then this kind of transitions to taxes, but the government, one thing I learned in school, right, is that the government has two levers to pull to help Social Security out. They can either, one, increase taxes, which they have been, right? Or two, decrease the benefits that they pay out to help people with. And so right now they're kind of doing both, or they're doing one in different areas. So if there is Social Security and all that stuff, and it should be there, well, what's happening there? Well, taxes are going up to make up for it,
Okay.
So it all kind of relates.
Right. So all in all, what we notice is that all of the systems that our country has put in place and the systems that we have relied on for years for financial security in the past are beginning to break down. So what do? Do we sit around and hope that Congress fixes the numbers across the board to readjust the economy? If they were going to do that, I would guess that it would be done already. My suggestion is that we have to take our financial matters into our own hands.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, how important is managing your cash flow and your current debt?
Yeah. Well, I was just gonna say, like, we really can only focus on things we can control.
Okay.
And also, I don't want to discredit the tools and resources that were available 20, 30 years ago either. Those are things that were probably the best tools at the time,
Mm-hmm.
but they get better, right? And there's some greater tools out now. And the key is to have different baskets for your eggs, as they say, right? Different things working for you, right?
Okay.
And so, the traditional stuff is great, but that can't be your only vehicle. Most people that are living a decent to a great retirement have 3 to 4 to 5 different flows that they're collecting from. Really 7, but at least 3 to 4 that they're collecting from to have enough to live a good life, But yeah, I mean, it all starts with what you control, which is you, right? How much money you're making, how much is going out. And one of the primary things that we do to start with people is that we do their cash flow analysis. We see what's going in, what's coming out. How many people out there feel like, man, I'm making money, but I don't see any money? Like, I make money, but I don't have any money, right? That used to be how I felt. We made a lot of money through our businesses. And it would just seem like we were just still living paycheck to paycheck, or really month to month, because everything we made, we spent, and the money that we thought we saved, we didn't have it. And so we have a system in which, if someone is able to follow that simple system, they can start creating cash flow in their budget already, and then freeing up that money. I mean, and even freeing up $50, $100, $200 a month. Some people don't realize that they're paying too much for their bills, like certain bills, like cable bills and stuff like that, right? We could shave that fat off and start those funds to start out.
Let me stop you right there. So I heard you say you have a system
That's right.
that people can use to create cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
within their own budget. Yeah, within their own budget. Within their own budget. Yep.
Okay, so I don't have to have a certain amount of money to start using this system. This system works with any amount of money that I currently have. If I work and I'm making, $2,000, a paycheck, you can work with that.
Right.
Okay.
Right. The only caveat, I mean, the only thing is that, you still got to be making more money than you spend.
Absolutely.
Okay. So,
okay.
But assuming that you do make more money than you actually spend, then we can reduce the spending down or increase the money making somehow. There's a lot of side hustles that we can do nowadays, right? But really, we focus on decreasing the spending.
Okay. So that's great. I mean, so and for our listeners, I want you to stick a pin in that. Like, when is the last time you've done a cash flow analysis? When is the last time you sat and really looked at what you're making compared to what you're spending?
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like you're working just to pay bills, and you get paid, and as soon as you get paid on Friday, and Monday morning you're starting back at ground zero again, trying to rebuild? If you feel like that, these are some of the things that you need to consider. Also, let's talk about planning for the unexpected. What about that? When it comes to managing your cash flow and controlling your amount of debt, there's always going to be those unexpected things, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And I also suggest doing it with a professional, because everyone's emotional about their own money, right? No matter who, even me.
What does that mean?
Huh?
What does that mean?
That means that even myself, I need someone else to give me financial advice, because I'm emotional about my own decisions, right?
Okay.
The investments that I do. So I have a person that I see, that I talk to, that I bounce. I have several people actually that I bounce ideas with and see, and then they'll tell me what I need to hear, because they're not emotionally attached, right?
But I need this though, right?
Right. I need this. That car, or whatever that is, right? You need it. Yeah. So you imagine any of us, we sit down with a pen and paper and we start to write down our mortgage payment, our rent payment, and our insurances and our car and all that stuff. We start to get emotional about that, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're right.
So you need someone else to do that for you.
Cable. That's like Yeah, I mean, like 100. It's so expensive. It's like
Yeah,
$196 for cable and internet,
yeah,
and you probably watch TV 3 times a week, if that. Like, how
yeah.
often do you really watch cable? But when it comes to cutting it, everybody's that's that emotion. Oh, I can't get rid of
That's
cable.
right. That's right.
I can't. I gotta have cable. Why do you have to have cable?
Yeah,
But you have to have it. That's an emotional buy that
yeah.
a lot of
We
people make that we probably really don't need.
yeah we cut that like I don't know 8 years ago.
Really?
And yeah, we did. When we were on our, we cut off TV completely and just focused on our life and our business, right? And then but now there's also streaming service like YouTube TV has $60 a month. Well, $60 is a lot better than 200 something dollars and 8 boxes you never watch TV on, stuff
Oh
like
my goodness, yeah. And then they charge you
that.
for every box and every connection and every $13 a month for this, $5 a month for
Yep,
this.
insurance is
You know,
on
it's
each
the
box.
state
So
fee tax, and before you get that bill, and it was advertised as like 112 a month, but then when you get the bill, it's like 196. You're
yep,
like, what is all of this?
yep.
So, but guess what? We pay it.
You
We don't
pay it.
fuss about it, and that's $200 essentially that we could be using to create more cash flow for
That's
ourselves.
right. And see that
So
the thing you just said, Justin, though, you said we pay it, we don't fuss about it, we pay it. That's how you gotta look at the bill to yourself. That's how you gotta look at your investment. You gotta pay it. Don't fuss about it. That's to yourself,
right,
So
that's good. That's good. So what about what do you think about having an emergency fund?
you have to. You have to. My emergency fund at one point was Visa, MasterCard, American Express, all of them. And I ain't gonna lie, it is hard when there's not a lot of cash flow, right?
Right.
But it starts with a baby emergency fund. Starts with something is better than nothing, and we build up. And ideally, we want to get to a point where it's 3 months, 6 months of income, a year of income saved up,
Uh-huh.
and then you have no more emergencies. Rich people don't have any emergencies, right? Poor
Yeah.
people have a lot of emergencies.
Right, right.
So we want to try to get people at that point, but start small and kind of build your way up.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I had read once that, you start with $1,000 and then you grow into, 3 months of, you sit down and you figure out what all your bills are.
Yeah.
And whatever all of those bills are, like if you were to lose your job today, how much would it take to pay all your bills for the month? That's how much you need 3 months, then 6 months in emergency fund. And then, like you said, you don't have no emergencies because you can take care of whatever arises. And if you take from it, you put it back. So properly managing, your money, creating that cash flow is important because if you don't know how much money is coming into your account and how much money is going out of your account each month, also you need to know where it is going. It's impossible for you to establish a process that allows you to use that money to create more. So let's go further into the topic of the processes that allow you to use your money to create more. David, in your expertise, what are some of the fundamental concepts that you use to grow money?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the whole point of everything we talked about before is getting to this point where we have some money we can put away and where do we put it, right? And so there's something called the wealth formula, right? The wealth formula, the formula to build wealth, you need three things. You need money, obviously, right? You need money. You need a high rate of return, right? And you need somewhere where it can grow with safety. So the thing is that you got to have all three of those things. I'm sorry, money, a high rate of return, and somewhere where you can avoid taxes legally, right?
Okay.
Because those things are the number one enemies of our money is really inflation. So,
Okay.
so we utilize a very simple rule called the rule of 72. Einstein is the one that made it popular. I'm not sure who came up with it, but he's the one that made it popular because it's the rule of compounding interest. And the thing is this, you can take any percentage rate out there, any percentage rate you see, divide it into 72, and it tells you how many years it'll take for that amount of money to double, right? Example, let's say the bank right now gives you 1%. 72 divided by 1 would be 72, right? So if you had money in the bank at 1%, it would take 72 years for your money to double. All right, that's a long time. On the reverse side, let's say you use a credit card interest rate. Let's say the average credit card interest rate is 10%. It's probably more than that right now, but let's say 10% to make it easy, right? 72 divided by 10 is actually 7.2. So your debt in that credit card or whatever it is you have debt in would double in 7 years, right? So you can have interest work against you or for you. You get to choose that. And so we help you choose the latter, right?
Hold up. So this explains why, for all of those people that are like me, that had those high interest rate credit cards, and you only paid $25 a month because that was your credit card minimum.
That's right. I remember those.
And you looked up 10 years and you're still paying $25 a month, and that number hasn't went anywhere. That's basically because in that 10-year time frame, that balance on that card has doubled because of the rule of 72.
Yeah. One of the reasons is that, yeah.
I wish I had known that, like when I was 23, because yeah.
I know.
Yeah, I got a credit card, David, and man, I was the man when I got that credit card.
Yeah.
I maxed that puppy out in 3 days, and I spent 7 years paying it back.
Yeah.
But then I was like, what am I doing? So yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, we don't want to go on the credit card. Keep going.
No, try to get out of that. Try to get rid of that. I mean, it's good once you get a hold of it to use credit cards to your advantage, like build your credit up, get the rewards, all that kind of stuff. But you can't take, if you don't have discipline, you shouldn't play with that, right?
Yeah, you got to establish the discipline first before you start playing with credit cards, because you will end up in a whole lot more trouble, than when you started. But once you learn and start applying some of these concepts and you create more cash flow, you can have the credit card and not even turn to it.
Yeah.
Because you've already created that cash flow in other areas, and you would only use those credit cards in areas where it would benefit you. That's like, right. I still use credit cards, but the way my wife and I use credit cards now is we use it as like a no interest loan. Yeah. Like I'll take a credit card, and if it has a promotion, and this is another thing you can do, you can call them and ask what promotions are they running. If they give you a promotion with 18 months no interest, you can take that credit card and make your purchase, and essentially, long as you pay it off in that 18 months, that it just turned into a zero interest loan for you. Yeah. But you have to pay it off in that 18 months, because what they don't tell you is if you don't pay it off in 18 months, all of the interest from the 18 months that you missed get tacked on at the end. Yep. So those are some of the tricks that you can start applying to your situation once you create cash flow and establish a disciplined lifestyle regarding your finances. So anything else, David, regarding the concepts of growing money?
Yeah, well, really, it just starts there. And then, we have lots of different vehicles and companies that we work with to find people based on how much they can put away, no matter how little or big it is, that will maximize their growth. I also want to talk a little bit about life insurance, right? We talked about a little bit of that before during our conversations. And life insurance is a big tool nowadays that's used to build wealth. And now, typically thinking, right, Justin, like we had talked about this, man, like what are most people thinking about life insurance, that the purpose of that?
You're only thinking about the death part, the death benefit. Death part.
We're buying as a death insurance, not really life insurance.
Death insurance, right.
Yeah, so, which is true. I mean, that's how it used to be, right? But you imagine why people don't get life insurance, or they have a policy. You ever talk to someone and say, I got a policy already, right? I see it all the time. And they have like $5,000 or $10,000 or $25,000. And by no means is that enough for anything, But the thing is that when you think about life insurance, imagine you buy a policy and you're paying for it every month, and you live until you're 95 years old, and you're paying every month for 50, 60, 70, 80 years, right? Does that sound like a winning bet?
No,
No, right? You're
absolutely
thinking,
not.
man,
It's
I probably
yeah,
paid more in the policy than it actually is worth by that time, then who's getting it? Someone else,
exactly,
you
exactly.
know? And so that's why a lot of people don't get life insurance or even get enough. But those that understand that more recently, the past 20, 25 years, it's transitioned into a tax shelter where there are these policies out here now where you can actually invest money into. It gives you the death benefit, which is great, right? But it also gives you an opportunity to get into some funds and invest and grow and build enormous amounts of wealth. And later on, if you don't die early, right, you can use that money for whatever you want to use it for, right? Retirement, traveling, buying stuff, right? Investing, whatever you want to do, and it all be tax-free because it's in life insurance.
Right.
Right. And I talk to more and more people nowadays, and people have like been researching this stuff more than say 10, 12 years ago when I first started. People haven't even heard about it, right? But now it's on social media, it's pretty much everywhere. But hey, that sounds a lot better than paying for something that just pays out when you die, right?
Absolutely. For me, and that's one of the things that I'm, most grateful to you for is, the knowledge that you have given me regarding this very topic. Now, what I know about, the different types of policies and different ways to benefit from making those types of investments, I cannot see myself, living without this type of policy, without making this type of investment. It is, to me, it is one of the safest and easier passive means of investment. So let's talk about some of the different types, because when I met you, I think I was working off of a few term policies that I forgot the term you used, but if I outlive the policy, I don't get that money back.
Right.
Right. So that, it's like, and I never even thought about that. When you asked me a question at the beginning of this segment, what age did I think I was going to live? I think I said 95.
Yeah.
Right. And now that we're talking about this policy, I got this policy when I was 25. So this policy will be over when I'm 45 in 5 years, right? So here I am, and break out your calculator, David, because
I got it right here.
I've been paying like $57 a month for 20 years into this policy. And I called them once I met you, and I asked, am I going to, if I outlive this policy, what happens? They said, oh, we'll just, we'll be happy to just start it over for you. But all right, wait a minute. What about the money that I already invested? Oh, well, that was just the cost of us covering you just in case something happened. It wasn't really an investment. You were just paying a fee for coverage.
Yeah.
So that was the term policy that I had. But how much money is that?
$13,680.
Go. Because I don't plan on dying before I'm 45. So, that money's just washed. That's gone.
Yeah.
So it's important to think about that, because taking that same 13,400 or whatever dollars and investing it into a policy that's going to yield me some return, I could have turned that $13,000 into like $25,000.
Yeah.
Right. In that same 20 years. So, it's important to think about those things, because we work hard for our money, and just because it sucks that, we don't know some of these things, and our lack of knowledge causes us to, I don't want to say waste, but it causes us to lose out on some amazing investment opportunities. Yeah. So what are some of the different types of policies?
Yeah, sure. So I don't want to completely knock off term because it does serve a purpose, right?
Okay.
Now, for those of you who don't know about life insurance and different types of plans, let me just go over term with you real quick, all right? Because sometimes I get talking, or we get talking, and we assume everyone knows what that is, right? But Term is a policy where you pay for it for a certain term period, like 10 years, 20 years. The longest you can buy term for is 30 years. And they have different variations of term, but the best one to get if you do get term is the fixed, the level term, where it's the same payment every month for that 30-year time frame. Because then, you know, some of them go up in price over time, and some of them, but you just want that level one, right? And it's inexpensive, relatively speaking. It's inexpensive. So if you're out there, maybe you're a single parent, or maybe you're a family that doesn't have a whole lot of extra, but you need some kind of life insurance, it does have a purpose for that point, right? You can get a term policy for pretty cheap. And if you should pass away in the next 20, 30 years, while the kids and family are still young, they're going to be okay, right? So I'm not saying that's a bad policy to have, but should it be the only policy you have if you have more to work with? And that's where we get into, like, you know, some people only have term and that's all they have and they live by, or maybe they know about. And there's so much other better things out there that can add to the portfolio. Typically you hear about whole life. That's the second type of insurance that you hear out there, very popular, is whole life. It's actually the first type of insurance is whole life. And those are policies that do what they do. You pay for it for your whole life, and it covers you and for your whole life up to age 100. Okay, so it's not really your whole life, but up to age 100. Those policies, like the old school ones, it's kind of like having, like, not even the iPhone 7, probably like the Nokia, the one with, you know, with the fancy antenna back then. The one we all used to have to play the snake game.
We just play Snake. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's so that Nokia is kind of like the whole life. But now, of course, there's different ones, what's called indexed universal life, which these are the policies we can invest a lot of money into. But to break it down, there's term, there's whole life, and then there's universal life.
Okay.
And within universal life, there's different types of those.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
All right. So it's not easy for some people to wrap their minds around the concepts of investing their money in this way, right? So it's not going to be an easy decision for everybody to make. There are many ways to invest your money. They don't all work for all people at all times. Some people prefer short-term solutions, while other people look for more long-term ways to invest. Some people want low risk, low reward, while other people prefer high risk, high reward investments, right? If a person does not know what type of investor they are yet, how can they know which strategy would be most effective for them? This is where, like you said, a financial advisor will become a valuable guide. With that in mind, David, how does one, you know, okay, use me for an example. No, when we met, I was not no investments, no anything. So how does one even begin to change the way they think so that, you know, they can make these better decisions with their money?
Yeah. Begin. First step, right? I mean, you know, it takes several conversations. Like if you go to the doctor and the doctor says there's something going on with you, you don't really accept it right away, right? It takes some time to digest. You need to come back for a couple meetings. You need to do your own research, right? But how it starts is having a meeting, talking to someone about it, right? And then that opens up the ideas and the pathways, and then it becomes more comfortable to start going. And it really, it's not as complicated as one would think it is, right? It's just a conversation, run some numbers. Do you like the way it looks? Get started. And then every year you kind of do a little quick check-in to see how things are going.
Okay. Contrary to popular belief, do you have to have a lot of money to start?
Yeah, well, define a lot of money, right? What does that mean, you know? The answer is no, you just have to start, right?
Okay.
You have to figure out what your number is, right? And that's what a financial professional would do. That's what I would do, right? I would find your number and help you work with that, and then see how over time you can increase that number and grow. Now, this is what happens though. People have this, and we all do, we have this huge expectation of what things should be. And then we realize, but then we only want to part ways with a little bit, right? And we realize how big a gap that is. And the thing is, we have to manage expectations, just like with anything else, we have to manage expectations. And realize that, hey, putting away $25 a month is not going to get you $2 million, right? You know,
It's not.
but it is a start, 50, 100, 200, whatever it is, right? We can work with that, but that will build your way on up.
That's a great point to bring out. Managing those expectations.
Mhm.
Yeah, because you're absolutely right. But I guess, to be advocate, play the advocate side to that same coin, looking at your $25 a month and wanting it to manifest into $2 million a month is still better than what you're doing now if you're not investing anything.
Doing nothing, right? That's right.
So doing nothing is not an option at this point, because we've already shown how the other systems are failing, right? Retirement, Social Security, all of those things, all of those systems are failing. Retirement is an investment fund, right? And I remember seeing on the news when COVID hit, how all of those, a lot of people, as a matter of fact, I was working at the federal government at that time. And I remember coming in, and I remember my supervisor, this was January, he was retiring in September, right? And he was just livid. Because he didn't know what he was going to do, because the stock market had crashed so bad, he had lost about half of his retirement fund, because it was all invested in all of these different accounts and all of these different funds. And when the stock market crashed, he lost it all. And this was 8 months away from his retirement. This man has been working for 40 years in the federal government, and just with a snap of a finger, lost half of his retirement. That's not to push fear, but that's scary to think about, how you could just lose it just like that, right? Yeah. So these tools that you're pointing out to us, they're safe from all of those type of mishaps.
That's right. That's right.
Right. So, and the only reason a lot of us don't use them is because we don't know.
Don't know about them. That's right. I get that question. That's probably, we get the same questions from, I've sat down with thousands of people in my time, right? And the number one question I get is, why haven't I heard about this? Or if it's so good, haven't I heard about this, right? And the answer to that question is, well, when's the last time someone reached out to you about it? Like, if you had a couple $1 million sitting there, I guarantee you someone will find you. You know what I'm saying? That's just how it is in the industry. They want wealthier people. Right. But you're 200, 500, 1,000, whatever. Even though that's a lot of money, these people that know this stuff don't want you, or not you, Justin, but like you in general, right?
Right.
They're looking for the big sharks, the big whales, but you go to, if you start looking at this stuff up, I bet you any multi-millionaire, any corporate, whatever, what are they putting most of their money into? It's not your typical 401k.
Right.
This is not those. Guaranteed.
Right. Right. Absolutely. So let me ask you this. What are some of the dangers of waiting too long to start? And we're going to go ahead and start, getting ready to table this off. And if you guys have any questions, I encourage you to go ahead and begin to submit them in the chat, and we'll get those off to David before I have to let him go for tonight. But I just got a few more questions. What about those people that are just hesitant on pulling the trigger? What damages could they do to themselves by doing nothing about this?
Yeah, well, the biggest thing you lose is time, right? I wish I could show a visual, but I can't tonight. But the thing is that, put it this way, most of the good stuff, the good interest rate compounding on all that growth, happens on the tail end when you have a lot of money. In the beginning, let's say you had $1 or like $100 right now, right? You make 10% on $100, that's $10.
Right.
But 30 years from now, when you say you have $1 million and you make 10% on $1 million, that's going to be 100 grand next year,
$100,000.
right?
Yeah.
So most of the good stuff happens at the end when you have a lot more. So the longer you wait, the longer you prolong that end part. Make sense?
Right, right. And you have to build up to get to the big paydays.
That's right.
Right. And just like, just like anything else, you got to start from the bottom and you grind your way up.
You gotta start.
Every month you putting it in there. You're not, you just set it and forget it. Like a crock pot, right?
Eat at home once a week, like don't go buy lunch once a week. Just eat, pack a lunch. That's $15 right there, you're safe.
Right, right.
So anything like that. So
right. So, and talking about those not starting, not doing anything, right? Right now I'm young, I'm healthy. I have a growing family that's still, still fairly small. God forbid I lose my stable income, right? If I lose my income, I don't have anything to build wealth with, right? So now I missed out on the opportunity that I did have to put something away, right? What about my health? What if my health starts to fade? Right. The older you get, the more expensive it becomes to use these products.
Yeah.
Right?
The more you need to get to where you want to go, right? Exactly.
Exactly, right? If we just had a child, but if we keep having babies, that's more. I know my wife is probably in the other room, like, you can forget that, but that's more, what I'm saying? That's more people that you have to plan for.
Yeah.
So, it's important that we start now while, we have the ability to do these things.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. Yeah, exactly. Your point, it's only going to get busier. It's only going to get whatever, fill in the blank, right? So the best time to do is now.
Yeah. So what do you think about managing family risk?
Managing, what do you mean by that?
So preparing for your family.
Oh, like getting stuff in place for them?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you give them a head start. There's nothing wrong with giving people a head start. And honestly, okay, so now we're getting back to the generational curses stuff, right? I mean, every week we hear about that, right? Every week, those are conversations we have about breaking these curses. And with these tools, generational debt and poverty can be gone right away.
Mm-hmm.
Now the money side can be, but the knowledge and the stewardship and the knowledge, that side of it still needs to be working our part.
Right.
We still got to teach our family and our kids and the next to think better about money. That way they can handle what's left behind of them. But as far as the financial part of it, we can solve that easily.
Absolutely. Okay. Right. So and I think, a part of that comes with, for me, I think it's my responsibility to accept the fact that I may not see the full benefit of everything that I'm doing right now. I may not see it in my lifetime, but my children will. And I can thereby begin to establish a different mindset, a different lifestyle, and create a different culture within my family, within my lineage, right? Like because I was thinking, I said, man, if I had and it's no use crying over, the past, but the things that I'm doing now, if I had started them 30 years ago,
yeah,
I would be able to reap some of those benefits. Now I would be on the big end. Right?
Yeah.
I would have that, couple $100,000 invested into the policy, gaining 10% every month. Now this policy is making millions of dollars, right? Because I've been paying, hundreds, if not thousands of dollars into this policy for 30 years, right? So, Justin, the young man, is not going to get to experience that part, right? But Justin, the old man, will be able to teach his children and you know, bless his children with a better lifestyle, you know, when I do this, when, you know, it is my time to transition on. So, you know, I think thinking about it in that light too, you know, just creates greater purpose for me in learning these things and applying these practices in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. I really, I really love what you said about that. You know, our potential shouldn't ever be realized in our lifetime, right? It should be so big that it's like passing the baton on to the next one. And then our generations will realize the potential, but not only that, but add on to that. And that's how you really create that generational wealth, you know? But you're absolutely right. Like the earlier, the better, right? Now that we know, we can't blame not knowing. We can't blame ignorance anymore, right? We can't do that. We know now, so we got to do something. We either do something about it, or we don't. But we can't blame anybody else but ourselves, you know.
Okay, so you know, and you know, another reason is, and this was something that I thought about, that I said, well, who's going to take care of me? You know, and what if you know, God forbid, but what if I'm, you know, unable to take care of myself?
Yeah.
You know, 40 years from now, 30, 40 years from now, right?
Yeah.
What if my children, you know, as is, aren't financially able to take care of me? So I need to do some of these things now so that I could prepare for when I can't take care of myself in the future. That's right? So we have to make this money work for us. We have to make this money generate more money, because there's going to come a point in time when I can't work. And there's going to come a point in time when I might need assistance taking care of myself. Do I want to be a burden to my family?
That's right.
Or do I want to have, you know, that nest egg built up so that, you know, it's not a burden for them making sure that I'm properly taken care of. I don't want to end up in somebody's basement. I know that. So, you know, that's something to think about too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, depends how nice the basement is. You know, there's some really nice homes out there with nice basements. But I get what you're saying. No, you definitely, I mean, you definitely don't want to be a burden, because think about the average person now, how hard it is to get by just taking care of their own family, right? And then on top of that, you got to take care of parents. This is not like we're in the villages of Africa or Vietnam where, you know, they're just living off the land. You know, this is like, you got to out there and do something in this world. United States of America. So yeah, just the fact that I don't want to be a burden to them is enough to motivate me, you know, to get going.
Right, right. So last question. How does budgeting and stewardship play a part in all of this?
Yeah, I mean, you got to remember, right? It's not ours anyway, right? It's given to us and appointed to us, and we get to utilize it and enjoy it, hopefully some, right? So I think that it's super important to budget, and also budget God in, right? I mean, we're big time tithers, right? But there was a point in time in our lives where we didn't. And it was more me, you know, I'm the money guy, I'm out making the money, you know, my wife was too as well, but she's more on the home front. And so, you know, I'm more emotionally attached to it, right? But she was like always, you know, you can't outbless God. As she loves to say, you can't outbless God. And I remember when we started, you know, doing the tithing, the 10%, then you start negotiating, right? You say, okay, is it 10% net income or gross income, right? And then you're like, is it 10% before taxes or after taxes? Right. And then
you're absolutely right.
Right. You started negotiating with it, right, man? But I tell you, even, you know, it's like the penny, right? The whole penny story, right? I mean, even when we started that 10%, man, that 90 was always enough and more than the 100. You know, always enough and more.
It was always enough.
Yeah.
It was always enough.
So yeah, you know, and part of that is we got to get on a budget. And one tip I'll give you guys, just in case I never get to talk to anybody here again, but you got to create one way to do it that's changed our whole flow was that we realized that we only had one checking account where we got paid in and we spent from it, right? And when you do that, you have no clue where your money's going. So we created one checking account and then multiple other checking accounts for different reasons. And when we got paid, we flow the money into those accounts for the bills, the spending, the savings, the vacationing, the Christmas fund. We had it all going in different accounts, and we only spent money from one account, and that gave us a hold of where our money was going. You know, and that was like a 30-second blip, but that's really one of the secrets to it. But there's also the Jesus account that we call it, right?
Okay.
Log on Navy Fed, it said Jesus right there, right? And that's the account that we type in.
Okay, that is a great tip. I hope you guys got that. One account, you have your spending account, you break it off, you have your savings, your bills, your all your, yeah. So that's kind of similar to the envelope method.
Very similar, yeah.
But you're just using your bank account. Yeah.
Yeah, because who's gonna go get cash and put envelopes? I don't know. That's kind of cool.
Well, Dave seems to think that a lot of people still use cash. Okay.
Yeah.
We ain't gonna get into that. But that's what Dave
cash
said.
might go missing. You're on the way to the bank and 20 slips out. So
yeah,
man.
you have to establish a budget.
You got it. Yeah.
You cannot be out here working without a budget because you're never gonna know where that money's going.
But think about this. The biggest Apple. Do you think Apple has a budget?
Absolutely.
Do you think Google has a budget?
Absolutely. They have a monthly, quarterly, yearly, and a 5-year budget. Every one of those companies do.
Yeah.
And their budget is already projected out for the next 5 years.
That's right. Success leaves clues, they say, right? If these multi-billion-dollar corporations have budgets, you probably should too. Because your house is like a business. There's income and there's expenses, right?
Mm-hmm. So y'all hear that? Your house is a business. There's income, there's expenses. If Apple has a budget, you should have a budget too.
That's right.
If you don't take nothing away from the rest of the night, I think that was the one, David.
That's it.
Yeah. So at this time, if I want to ask everybody, if you have any questions, go ahead and get those questions in the chat. My moderator is going to begin to send me those questions, and we're going to take a commercial break. And once we come back from the commercial break, I'm going to take all of the questions, and then I'm going to yield the floor to David for his final remarks, and then we're going to dismiss for the night. All right, so quick commercial break. So we want to invite you all to get connected to House of God Worship Center. We want to ask you to do that by visiting our website, downloading our House of God Worship Center app, where you can access all of our functions, get copies of our calendars, know what we have going on. And the app is just endless. There's so much potential for you to connect with us via the app. House of God Worship Center is presenting Gen Z Game Night. That's going to be December the 16th from 7 to 10 p.m. at 2510 Build America Drive in Hampton, Virginia. Teenagers between the ages of 13 and 18 are invited and encouraged to attend and bring their friends. There will be games, prizes, dance-offs, and there will be an open concession stand and more. We encourage everybody to spread the word. This is open to the public. Bring your teenagers and let's let them have a great time. Lastly, but certainly not least, we encourage you to join us every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. at 2510 Build America Drive in Hampton, Virginia. We have space for you. Do not miss this glory encounter. You can also watch the service on our live stream on our Facebook page or by clicking the link in our HOGWC app from the comfort of your own home. Those are all of our announcements. And at this time, I am going to take any questions. All right, so David, we have a question here. How much of a policy should we get, and what companies do you recommend? And they put in parentheses Northwestern or Fidelity.
Okay, so the first question is how much of a policy should you get?
Yeah, it says how much of a policy should we get, and what companies do you recommend? So
Go ahead. Oh, so there's two ways to answer the how much should you get. The easy way to do it is you take your annual income times it by 10. So you're making 50 a year, 50,000 a year is 500,000. The better way to do it would be to write down what's called a DIME, D-I-M-E. D stands for debt. How much debt do you owe on everything? I, your income. How much money do you make per year? Times that by 7 years or 10 years. M is your mortgage if you have one, and then E is educational expenses for kids. If you have kids and you want to make sure college is taken care of when you pass away, if you do pass away early, then do that, and that gives you a good number. But typically 10 times your annual income or 15 times your annual income is a good number. As far as which company do I recommend, it all depends. I can't recommend either of those two companies because I don't represent them, but it'll be more of a conversation, and then basically they could price shop for you or see or shop your policy around to see what it would be the best one. It also depends on, is it term, is it like an investment policy? There's lots of other questions that go along with that question, so it's very hard to say.
So ultimately, it's not a question that it's on a case by case basis.
It is.
So yeah. The correct the correct thing for that individual to do would be to seek the advice of a financial advisor such as yourself, and have that conversation that you talked about, which is going to lead to other conversations in which you learn about that person's individual situation and then apply the best strategies for that individual.
Yeah, absolutely. And then
right.
And even if it's not with me, which I'd be happy to help, right? But if it is with someone, make sure that, this is my advice to you all, make sure that it's with someone that that has different resources to go to versus just one company. In the financial world, you can be what's called a captive agent, where you represent only one brand. There's pros and cons to that, but it's more sentimental. Like, I have one company I represent, I'm loyal to one company. It's more sentimental reasons. The other option is a non-captive agent, where they're independent. They have 50 companies that they partner with, they can go to. And for me, that's the way I chose to go, is to have different companies, because different clients need different companies based on what their needs are,
Mm-hmm.
So to make sure you have that check mark.
Mm-hmm. And it's always good to be in the position where people are fighting for your business versus you being basically you have to take what this one company offers. If that's I'd rather shoot the information out there and all of these people give me back their terms. So if they know that that's the situation, then they're going to be more inclined to give me better terms, because they know that I have other options on the table.
Yeah, it's like if you buy a TV or something, right? Over holidays, you don't go buy a TV from Sony or buy a TV from LG. You go to Walmart or you go to Best Buy or Costco, and you see all of them.
Yeah.
Now you can pick which one's best for you.
Gotcha. Okay. So here's the next question. I just lost it. Real estate. Investing in real estate, is that something that you would recommend right now? Or
who's asking that question? Yeah, I mean, if you ask me, yes, I'm a big real estate investor too. But it depends. You got to be careful about that. This is not a real estate show. We can talk about real estate on a different show if you want to, but it really depends on you. Again, that's another question. Like, let's say me and you, Justin, we go to the doctor and say our elbow hurts, right? You could be in there for a totally different reason than me, So the same thing with investing, same thing with real estate. It depends on your situation and what you're doing and what method. I can't tell you if it's good or not. But if you know your purpose and your reason, and you have the right investment for your reason, then yes.
Okay. Good, safe answer.
Yeah,
Let's see. Any more questions? I'm trying to look at this chat to see if I got any more.
Okay.
Okay, when it comes to streams of income, you said 5, but it really should be 7. This individual is saying, what if I have only one stream? Could it be big enough if I just used it wisely?
Yeah, I mean,
It's like a trick question, but
I mean, I didn't mean anyone to make anyone feel like, offended or bad about that. I mean, if you have one and it's great, that's great, it helps to create more. But I think I was referring to when you retire. Like when you retire, you got to have different streams.
Yeah.
You're going to have more than one. You already have Social Security as one of them, right?
Hopefully.
Hopefully. You may have a 401k as one of them. And then other than that, maybe you work for a job that you work for 30 years, they pay you a pension, which is they call it pension, right? So you have 3 streams of income, maybe. Maybe you're military, you get a military retirement, right? Maybe that's another disability. So that's what I was referring to. When you get to the ultimate freedom day, wherever that is, you want to have different cash flows coming in somewhere. Now, along the way, when you're younger, the more the merrier. But if you have one that's paying you really good, you're doing well with it, then that's fine too.
Okay. Let's see. All right, guys, this is it. Any more questions? Last call for questions. So we don't have any more questions at this time. So what I would like to do, David, is I would like to yield the floor to you, and you can, have your final remarks, and be sure to let all of our viewers know how they can contact you.
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to thank you guys for having me on. I've been knowing Gary and is it rude to call him Gary? Pastor? First lady. I've been known them for a few years. For a while now, I'm very connected with some of the people there as well. I just thank y'all for inviting me on. I know you invited me on to just kind of share a little bit, but it was an equal blessing to me to be able to talk about it. And just encourage everyone to, to use the information and just make some moves with it, right? Knowledge is only power when you apply it, right? You got to take the knowledge and do something with it. Otherwise, it's just sitting there in your brain and it doesn't really help you out at all. If you want to contact me somehow, some way, my phone number right here, email, and I'm on Facebook and Instagram. If the Instagram, you'll see a lot of real estate stuff up there, but any way to connect with me is fine too as well. Be happy to
screenshot.
Yeah, screenshot that, but yeah, I mean, I don't charge for my services either. So if you want to ask a question or whatever, I'm more than happy to help. I just want to be able to get information to people. Okay. So be blessed, everybody.
Awesome. Well, David, once again, I can't thank you enough for coming on and having this conversation with me. Again, this is just like any other conversation we have, and we're probably gonna talk about this same thing again Monday. But thank you again for coming on. Thank you to our sponsors, House of God Worship Center, our leaders, Bishop Gary Rogers and Pastor Lisa Rogers, for the vision, and just allowing us to have these, these candid conversations with industry professionals that allow us the opportunity to get this information to overall better our lives and in ways that you may not get in a traditional church setting. Thank you to all of our guests for tuning in. Thank you for all of the comments, all of the likes, the shares, all of your feedback. You guys really made this segment easy on me and David. I invite everybody here, if you don't have anywhere to worship on Sunday, give us a shout. Come out to House of God Worship Center, 2510 Build America Drive, Hampton, Virginia. We would love to have you. And if you can't make it in person, check us out online right here on our Facebook page. Or you can go to our app or our website and enjoy the service as well. Oh yeah, and on YouTube. We're on YouTube at House of God Worship Center. Join us right here next month on the first Friday, and we're going to embark on another great topic right here on the Hub. Thank you guys again, and everybody have a great night.
See you guys.